Hello and welcome to True Crime Documentaries. But before we start today's case, subscribe to our channel for more content. On April 20th, 2016, the small town of Maplewood awoke to a nightmare they'd never imagined. Known for its peaceful community and deep-rooted families, Maplewood had always felt safe. The Thompson family was among the most respected here. They were seen as the ideal family, the kind every town has, radiating kindness, unity, and generosity. But behind the warmth of their home, dark secrets festered, secrets that would soon lead to a shocking crime. The case revolves around Michael Thompson, a hard-working family man in his mid-30s. He had been happily married to Laura, a beloved Maplewood native. Together they were Maplewood's golden couple, admired by neighbors and known for hosting community events, always with open hearts and open doors. They were the couple who would donate to local charities, volunteer for town fairs, and seemed to be deeply in love. But sometimes appearances can be deceiving. Over time, Michael began to notice subtle changes in Laura's behavior that he couldn't ignore. She was often distracted, distant, and strangely guarded about her phone. Their once joyful home seemed quieter, as if hiding an unspoken tension. Michael sensed that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. As whispers and glances from neighbors hinted at secrets Laura might be keeping, Michael's suspicions grew. Little did he know, these suspicions would lead him down a path he could never turn back from. Maplewood was a close-knit town where everyone knew each other by name, and secrets were rare. But the Thompsons were about to change all that. Henry Thompson, Michael's father, was a retired firefighter, a man revered by many for his bravery and service. But Michael's relationship with his father was beginning to feel strained. Recently, Michael had noticed strange interactions between Henry and Laura, glances that lingered too long, conversations that stopped abruptly when he entered their room. At first, Michael dismissed his concerns, brushing them off as paranoia. After all, Henry was his father, and Laura was his beloved wife. But over time, the signs became too obvious to ignore. Michael noticed how Laura would frequently leave the house at odd hours and take phone calls in hushed tones, always guarding her phone closely. One evening while Laura was out, Michael discovered a delicate gold bracelet in her drawer, a piece of jewelry he hadn't gifted her. His heart sank. Who had given her this, and why would she hide it? It was then that Michael knew something was terribly wrong, but confronting Laura would have to wait. He needed proof first. On the night of April 20th, 2016, Maplewood was plunged into horror. Around midnight, the piercing scream of sirens filled the quiet streets as police cars and ambulances converged on the Thompson home, their lights flashing ominously in the stillness. The cacophony of sirens broke the serene atmosphere of the small town, sending a ripple of fear through the neighborhood. As the first responders arrived, the scene that awaited them was one of utter chaos and devastation. Inside the Thompson home, Laura lay lifeless on the living room floor, her body bruised and battered. Blood splattered across the once neutral beige walls, starkly contrasting with the family photographs that hung there. Happy memories of a life that had been abruptly cut short. The living room, usually a cozy gathering place for family game nights and laughter, was now a nightmarish crime scene, filled with an overwhelming sense of despair. The furniture was in disarray, with the coffee table overturned, its surface littered with broken glass and personal items strewn about as if a tornado had swept through. A lamp lay shattered on the floor, its light bulb flickering before dying completely, plunging the room into darkness. A few cushions were tossed haphazardly, their fabric stained with crimson droplets. As the paramedics assessed Laura's condition, the grim reality set in. There would be no saving her. Her once bright smile and vibrant spirit were now extinguished, leaving behind a void that would echo through Maplewood for years to come. The news of the murder would spread like wildfire, leaving a community reeling and grappling with the unfathomable loss of one of their own. The sound of the sirens faded into the background as the reality of the situation sank in. The nightmare was just beginning, and the search for answers would reveal a darkness hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect town. Detectives and forensic teams moved cautiously, stepping around the evidence of a violent struggle that had erupted in what should have been a safe haven. Officers cordoned off the area with bright yellow tape, the stark color a grim reminder of the reality they faced. Detective Alex Ramirez was assigned to the case. Known for his tenacity and methodical approach, Ramirez had a reputation for solving even the most complex cases. As he entered the Thompson home, Ramirez felt an unsettling sense of foreboding. The eerie silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the murmur of first responders documenting the scene. Ramirez began his meticulous investigation, instructing officers to photograph every inch of the room, collect fingerprints, and secure any potential evidence that might offer clues. The neighbors, drawn by the flashing lights, gathered outside in shock, unable to believe that something so horrific could happen in their peaceful town. The news spread quickly. Laura Thompson had been murdered, and the mystery of who had committed such a brutal act was just beginning. As Detective Ramirez examined the scene, he noticed Laura's phone lying on the floor nearby. Unlocking it, he found a series of messages that hinted at a hidden affair. The texts were cryptic, but filled with passion, pointing to a secret love life that no one in Maplewood knew about. The sender? None other than Henry Thompson, Michael's father. Among Laura's belongings, Ramirez discovered tokens of affection that confirmed the affair. A necklace with Henry's initials, hidden love notes, and receipts for dinners and gifts. Witnesses came forward with stories, recalling instances when they'd seen Laura and Henry in secluded spots around town, in what seemed to be intimate moments. Slowly but surely, the narrative of a secret romance and the motive for murder started taking shape. Michael was devastated. The revelation that his wife had betrayed him with his own father shook him to his core. But as much as he felt angry and hurt, he was even more horrified by the possibility that his father had taken his wife's life. For Michael, this was more than a betrayal. It was a nightmare. Detective Ramirez knew he needed hard evidence to confirm Henry's involvement. The texts were damning, but they weren't enough. He decided to delve deeper, scrutinizing Henry's recent activities, finances, and phone records. A crucial breakthrough came when a neighbor reported seeing Henry near the Thompson house around 10:30 p.m. on the night of the murder. This was just an hour before Laura's body was discovered, placing Henry at the scene during the approximate time of the crime. Ramirez also found traces of blood in Henry's car, along with fresh cuts on his hands that he couldn't explain. As Ramirez interrogated Henry, his calm demeanor began to crumble under the detective's intense scrutiny. Henry claimed he had been home alone, unaware of Laura's fate. But as Ramirez pressed him with details, inconsistencies in Henry's story started to emerge. The detective's attention to detail was instrumental in piecing together the puzzle. Ramirez examined Laura's phone records, finding numerous calls between her and Henry on the days leading up to her death. The frequency and timing of these calls painted a picture of a relationship on edge, as though Laura had threatened to end the affair, a move that may have pushed Henry to act in desperation. When the case finally went to trial, the courtroom was packed with Maplewood residents who were desperate for answers. The prosecution built a case centered on the evidence Ramirez had uncovered. They argued that Henry's obsession with Laura had turned deadly when she decided to break off the affair. The threatening texts were read aloud, revealing Henry's possessive and increasingly desperate tone, leaving the courtroom in shock. Witnesses took the stand, describing moments they had seen Laura and Henry together, whispering in corners or exchanging affectionate glances. Some recalled seeing Laura looking fearful in Henry's presence, as though she was trapped in a situation she couldn't escape. Each testimony added to the chilling portrayal of a romance that had spiraled into darkness. Forensic experts testified about the blood in Henry's car and the cuts on his hands, which were consistent with injuries sustained during a struggle. The blood patterns matched those found at the crime scene, strongly suggesting that Henry had been there when Laura died. As the trial continued, Michael was called to the stand. His heartbreak was evident, his voice shaking as he recounted the months of suspicion and betrayal he had endured. The courtroom listened in silence as Michael described the gradual unraveling of his marriage, his initial doubts, and the devastating discovery of his father's affair with his wife. Michael's testimony was heart-wrenching. He spoke of the love he had once felt for Laura, the respect he had always held for his father, and the pain of realizing they had betrayed him in the worst possible way. His words left the courtroom in stunned silence, as the townsfolk grappled with the extent of the tragedy that had unfolded in their community. Detective Ramirez, the man responsible for uncovering the truth, was one of the final witnesses to testify. He gave a comprehensive account of his investigation, explaining each piece of evidence in meticulous detail. From the blood in Henry's car to the threatening texts, Ramirez's testimony left no room for doubt. His detailed recounting of the investigation underscored his commitment to justice and painted a clear picture of how Henry's obsession had led to murder. Ramirez's testimony was powerful, bringing the pieces together for the jury. His relentless pursuit of justice and his dedication to the truth gave the prosecution the final push they needed to secure a conviction. After weeks of emotional testimonies and damning evidence, the jury reached their verdict. Henry Thompson was found guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence was life in prison, a fitting end for a man who had shattered his family and betrayed the trust of an entire community. As the gavel fell, Maplewood was left in shock. The town would never be the same. Friends, neighbors, and family members struggled to come to terms with the brutal reality of the crime. The once revered Thompson name had become synonymous with betrayal and tragedy, leaving a stain on Maplewood that would not easily fade. For Michael, life after the trial was a struggle to pick up the pieces. He had lost his wife, his father, and the trust he had once placed in the people he loved. The once vibrant Thompson's household, filled with laughter and warmth, was now a silent reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. The days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Michael found himself wandering through Maplewood, haunted by memories of what could have been. He would often visit the park where he and Laura used to walk, reminiscing about their laughter and the dreams they had shared. Those moments now felt like a lifetime ago. Friends reached out, offering support, but he found it hard to engage with anyone. The betrayal ran too deep. In the quiet moments, he thought of his father, the man he had looked up to for so long. How could Henry have done this? How could a father betray his son in such a brutal manner? The betrayal weighed heavily on him, and he struggled to understand how a relationship built on love and trust could crumble into such darkness. To cope with his grief, Michael sought therapy. He wanted to confront his pain and find a way to heal. In therapy, he learned to express his feelings, to talk about his anger and sorrow. It was a difficult journey, but with each session, he began to process his emotions. He realized that he couldn't let the actions of others define his future. Michael also found solace in community service. He started volunteering at a local shelter where he could help others who were struggling. This new focus shifted his perspective, allowing him to channel his pain into something positive. The more he helped others, the more he felt a sense of purpose returning to his life. It became his way of honoring Laura's memory. She had always been passionate about helping those in need. Meanwhile, Maplewood itself was grappling with the aftermath of the trial. The townspeople were in shock, as many had admired the Thompsons as the ideal family. Gossip and speculation filled the air, leaving a palpable tension throughout the community. Some residents questioned whether they truly knew the people living next door, leading to a wave of paranoia that swept through the once close-knit town. In the wake of the tragedy, the Maplewood Community Center organized meetings to help residents process their feelings and fears. The meetings became a safe space for discussions about trust, betrayal, and the importance of communication within families. While the community was shaken, it began to come together to support one another, recognizing that they needed to heal as a whole. Detective Ramirez, who had worked tirelessly on the case, found himself reflecting on the impact of the events. He knew that his job was to seek justice, but this case had affected him deeply. It was a painful reminder of the darker side of humanity, and he often pondered the family dynamics that could lead to such betrayal. Ramirez remained committed to his work, hoping to prevent such tragedies from occurring in the future. As time went on, Michael continued to rebuild his life, but the scars of betrayal remained. He learned to navigate the complexities of trust and relationships differently. The experience changed him. He became more cautious about who he allowed into his life. Friends from his past were supportive, but he struggled to open up again, fearing that history could repeat itself. After a year of grieving and healing, Michael decided to move to a nearby city, away from the memories of Maplewood. He hoped that a change of scenery would help him start anew. The bustling streets and anonymity of the city provided a fresh start, allowing him to slowly forge new friendships and explore new passions. He pursued his love for art, something he had neglected during his turbulent years. Michael enrolled in a local art class, rediscovering the joy of creativity. As he painted, he poured his emotions onto the canvas, using art as a form of therapy. It became an outlet for his grief and a way to express the pain he had endured. Years passed, and the wounds of the past began to heal. Michael found a sense of peace he hadn't thought possible. He still remembered Laura, cherishing the good moments while acknowledging the pain of betrayal. He learned that moving forward didn't mean forgetting. It meant finding a way to live with the memories. In his new city, he met Sarah, an artist with a kind heart and a similar passion for helping others. Their friendship blossomed into a romantic relationship built on honesty and trust. Michael was cautious at first, but Sarah's patience and understanding allowed him to let his guard down. He slowly learned that not everyone was out to hurt him, and he found happiness in sharing his life with someone who truly cared. As they spent time together, Sarah encouraged Michael to share his story and his journey of healing. He began speaking at community events, sharing his experience of loss and recovery, emphasizing the importance of communication in relationships. His story resonated with many, and he found fulfillment in helping others navigate their own struggles. In time, Michael established a new life filled with love, creativity, and purpose. He had turned a devastating chapter into a story of resilience, finding strength in vulnerability. The memory of Laura and the betrayal remained, but it no longer defined him. Instead, he had transformed his pain into a catalyst for growth. Though he would always carry the weight of his past, Michael had learned to look toward the future with hope. Maplewood, with its painful memories, would always be a part of his story. But it was no longer the end. It had become the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with possibilities and a deeper understanding of the complexities of love and trust. The town of Maplewood would never forget the tragedy of the Thompsons, nor would Michael. But in the end, he had reclaimed his life, proving that even in the face of betrayal, healing, and happiness were possible. What do you think about it? How can we prevent such incidents? Let us know in the comments below.